Hello there, and thank you for clicking onto this video. This is a video which I'm creating for final year GP ST3 registrars, and I'm hoping to talk through the CSA examination. The CSA is an exam which can fill many trainees with fear and trepidation. It's a very important exam, obviously, to get your RCGP. It's also cost quite a lot of money, and on the day you can be very frustrated, you can be very scared, and we can often underperform in these situations. This is an example of a structure which I found very useful for my exam. I've certainly passed it on to my fellow colleagues and other junior trainees, and they found it very useful as well. Remember, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all for the CSA. This is a useful example of a structure which can be used for the more traditional cases. Of course, there will be cases which will not lend itself to this structure, but I found it very useful having this in the back of my head in the event that cases didn't go my way or I felt a bit out of my depth with certain cases. So have a look and see what I've done, and I hope you can use it, and I hope it inspires you to perhaps make your own, or if you want to use this, feel free. So with the CSA, there are three main components to getting marks. You have your interpersonal skills, your information gathering, and your medical management. Okay, so we'll start at the bottom here. So this is our interpersonal skills section, and as we know, that's marked out of 3. The other 2 domains include the information gathering stage, which again is 3 marks, and finally the medical management section, which is a further 3 marks. Now, as you will be familiar, each case will last 10 minutes. And it's time at 0 and time at 10, with the 5-minute mark roughly here. Now, this is a visual representation of the 10 minutes. You're looking to score your 3 marks for information gathering in the first half of the exam, looking to score maximum for your medical management in the second half of the exam, and you're going to score maximum for your interpersonal skills throughout the whole 10 minutes. As with any other clinical exam, you want to start in the right mindset. So you want to be happy, be smiley, be approachable. Have a couple of phrases, introduce yourself, get prepared, get used to introducing yourself in front of the mirror. How can I help? A couple of opening statements. If you like, shake the patient's hand, but just be comfortable and make this flow. The patients will often have an opening statement. You've got a couple of options at this point. You can either choose to explore those statements, but I wouldn't spend longer than 30 seconds to a minute at this stage. There's a temptation at this stage to run into the presenting complaint and go down a blind alley. What I find useful, or certainly would help me on the day, was to think at about 1 minute, just to put a stop sign here. Rather than rushing on to finding out a bit about the patient and about their presenting complaint, I like to put their story into context. We do that by finding out 2 core things. Okay, what's the home environment like? And secondly, what's the work environment like? These 2 key elements will help us to contextualize the patient, and it will also help us to understand the impact of their presenting complaint. Following on from that, it's very important, obviously, as you'll be well aware by this stage, to identify the patient's ideas, their concerns, and their expectations. What do they think is going on? What are their concerns? Why have they come in today? We can then explore their history further. What's been happening? Including what's been happening, what's the family history, and any relevant medication history, any allergies which are relevant. It's very important at this stage to rule out any red flags. Every case that you get potentially is a red flag case. It may be a cancer, it may be a suicide. There are endless red flags to look out for, and it's important that each case you should be ticking off those red flags. When you get to about 5 minutes, you should really have a good feel of the patient, their context, the impact that it's having on them, and ruling out whether this is a red flag station or not. It's very important at that point to proceed to ask permission if you can examine the patient at about 5 minutes. That's supposed to be a stethoscope, but my art is failing me. Some cases are going to be all about your examination. Some cases are not going to be about your examination skills. It's important for you to say to a patient, I would like to now examine you, and what I would like to do is A, B, C, D, and E. At that point, the examiner will either do one of two things. They will either hand you an information sheet with findings that you've had, or they will say nothing and you will proceed to examine the patient. Provided this is not an examination station, you will get an information sheet which will give you more information on what the findings are. At that point, you will be at about 6 minutes. You will then get to a stage in the exam which we call crossing the bridge. Okay, so I'll do my best to draw some kind of a bridge here. Now, crossing the bridge is a term we use for the CSA to highlight to the examiner that you've passed the information gathering stage and you're proceeding on to the medical management stage. There is one crucial element to add into this, okay, and that's to summarize. The summary is one of the most important aspects of the 10 minutes. When you summarize, this is key for giving you a mental break. It allows you to gather your own thoughts. It helps you to show the examiner that you've been listening, and it allows you to subconsciously prepare for the management section. And finally, and almost the most important aspect of this, is that it allows the patient to highlight anything you may have missed or highlight any particular concerns that they have. They will usually give you a chance to pick up any marks that you may have missed out at this point. So you've gone through your information gathering stage. You've got all the information you want, your red flags, you've interviewed, you've examined. You're at 5 minutes. You cross the bridge at about the 6 to 7 minute mark. Okay. It's very easy to get stuck in the history, present a complaint, before you know it, you're eating into 7, 8, 9 minutes. We often tend to stay in this part of the exam because it's more comfortable for us. A lot of the hard marks are made in the medical management section. There are a couple of key things to remember with the medical management. And one of the most important aspects to remember is that we have to explore the options available to the patient. And there are usually several options available. These will have to be discussed with the patient, and some opening statements are very useful. Something like, you've come in with this, and this today, examining you, I find this, you're concerned about X, Y, and Z. Well, piecing all that together, we've got several options. Option 1, 2, and 3. And then you go through each of those in more detail. What this does is, it allows you to explore the options. It allows you to score marks with the examiner to show that you're up to date with clinical guidelines. It shows that you're safe. And the most important thing is, you're promoting a shared management plan. And it's a great management plan with the patient. They might not do what you like them to do, but as long as you're happy that you've given them the information that they need to make a decision of what they want to do, that's really all you need to do. You support patient choice. There are 2 key areas which are left. You should be at about 8.5 to 9 minutes now. And there are 2 things. As with every patient, there's a potential for the condition to worsen. So what I call this section is the safety net. What you want to do is make sure the patient is leaving with a clear understanding of what you think is going on, of what you expect to happen next. They should already be aware of the other options available that they mightn't have taken, and more importantly, what they should look out for and what they should be worried about. So if it was a sick child, if it was red flag symptoms for a headache, if it was acute coronary syndrome, the list is endless. My point is, you want them to leave knowing that they should look out for certain aspects. The final bit, and when you're at 9.5 minutes, is to arrange for patient review. And depending on the case, that can be a telephone call, that can be a practice note, or it can be a face-to-face review with you or one of your colleagues. So there we have my approach to the CSA. This is not an approach which is going to get you 100 marks out of 100 each time. It's not going to get you 9 out of 9 each time. What it does do is that it allows you to go into the exam, or certainly it led me to go into the exam with the confidence that I had a safety blanket. I had a fallback approach, which was giving me a clear structure, which I had a structure to get all 3 aspects of the case, and I knew where I should be during the 10 minutes. It was a very useful tool, which I found helped me to progress during the stations, and I certainly thought it was helpful for me, and I hope you find this useful, and I hope that you will either use your own or modify this. The last thing I will say, when you go between the medical management and the safety netting, you want to make sure the patient's ideas, concerns and expectations have all been met and have all been addressed.